Hey guys, Trevy the Great here again with another Warhammer 40,000 battle report coming at ya. This one is with my Tyranids, obviously, versus some Space Marines, because obviously everybody plays Space Marines. And this is a game that I played a couple weeks ago, so not too recently. This was the preliminary round for a sort of test tournament that my local game club was running. Not the local game club at college where I am now, but the local game club back at home, I guess. And they're trying to get more into the tournament scene and run more tournaments and things like that. So they decided to run a test tournament, basically just a short event that would test out some of the rules and things that they were working on, and basically just give the event holder some practice in judging and running these events. So there weren't many people there, unfortunately, basically because it was a unofficial tournament. There was, no prize money offered or nothing like that, no special rules. It was basically just a single elimination tournament. I believe we had enough people for 2 rounds. I think we had 6 or 7 people there. And yeah, so that works really well because it was during a meeting of the club. So what they would do is that once somebody was eliminated, they could go play other games and pick up games and things like that, which worked really well. And I think it's a really good format for a smaller tournament like this. So yeah, so this is going to be the first round of the tournament. It did play 2 rounds. I did play the second round. This one was definitely the best round. The second one was against a Necron player who, honestly, I have no idea how he got to the second round. I think he played a newer player and beat them pretty squarely, but he didn't really know his codex very well, didn't really know what was going on, which was too bad. The game was pretty boring, to be honest, and I ended up just winning. It was a siege ground game, and I just ended up taking my objectives with my Termagants and contesting with Gene Stealers, and there's nothing he could do about it. He didn't play very offensively, played very defensively, and just let my Gene Stealers tie up all his troops. So yeah, that's what was happening there. So obviously it wasn't a very exciting game, but this is a little more intense. And this is honestly one of the most enjoyable games of 40K I've played in a while, just because my opponent and I were good friends. We knew each other really well. We were basically just smack-talking each other the entire game and yelling at each other. And we were the loudest table in the entire game club, not to mention just the tournament. And a lot of people thought the game was really funny to watch. So here's my list. I'm running a 1,500 point Tyranid list. I have 2 units of Devourer armed Termagants. I haven't really used these guys very often. I use a lot of Fleshbore armed Termagants. I use big units of them, 20, 30 guys, just because they're so survivable. They can sit on those objectives and go to ground. I don't really care about them actually doing damage, but then again, I wanted to try something a little new. This is a very shooting-based force, and so I wanted to put some extra shots in there, so I'm going to try these guys out, see how they go. I also have a Trigon Prime for that 12 strength 5 shots, and then plus monstrous creature that can flip over land raiders and take on tanks and big units and stuff like that. I have a Hive Tyrant with Hive Commander, and then he has the double Brand Leech Devourers and Paroxysm and Leech Essence. I don't know why I hadn't done this before, but just a testament to how derpy I am at actually reading things. But I hadn't really read the rules for the Paroxysm psychic power before, and realized that it is ridiculously powerful. It reduces a enemy unit within 12 inches to weapon skill and ballistic skill 1 for the remainder of the turn until my next turn. So it works for both my turn and their turn. And it really neuters enemy, assault units and even shooting units, and it's excellent. And I'd never really tried it before. I used a lot of Leech Essence or Spirit Leech, which regenerates wounds on the Hive Tyrant, but I hadn't really used that power before, and using it this tournament was ridiculously powerful. I also have 2 units of just normal Gene Stealers, no upgrades there, 10 models apiece. And then I have a unit of, I believe, 8 Ymgarl Gene Stealers. I love these guys. They just come in on an objective and contest it for the rest of the game, or wipe out a shooting unit or something like that. They're just gold. And then I have a big unit of, I believe, 4 warriors with an attached warrior prime. The warrior prime's got dual bone swords and a Death Spitter, and then all the warriors have Death Spitters, and I believe they have Adrenal Glands as well. And they're basically my shooting support unit and my counter assault unit. So if an enemy decides to assault my side of the board, these guys can not only sit on objectives and take them, but also assault enemy units and be very effective in that when they do so. So that's my list. My opponent was running a pretty standard Space Marine list. I think he had 2 tactical squads, a scout squad, a commander, Marneus Calgar, honor guard, and a predator. And then a scout squad had attached Tellian, and then they had bolters. And I believe that was all. So let's jump into the game, and we'll see how it goes. All right, here's my opponent's deployment. So we rolled up Dawn of War and Annihilation as the scenario, and I, just because I'm a dick and it is a tournament, so dick play is almost encouraged, I just decided to keep everything off the board. My Gene Stealers were going to come in reserve, and the Ymgarl Gene Stealers were in that crater in the foreground there. It's sort of on the left-hand side of the board. And they were going to come in and jump out and kill one of those tactical squads. I didn't want to put them in the middle because I figured he would put assault units in the middle that I wouldn't really want to have to deal with those Ymgarl Gene Stealers, because what I like to do with Ymgarls is up toughness and then assault a shooting unit and then basically just tie it up for the game. The Ymgarl Gene Stealers will eventually kill it, but if it's an objective or a troop's choice that I'm attacking, then they can seriously hamper my opponent's ability to respond to that and possibly win the game at the end. So I've just kept everything off. As you can see, he's deployed Marneus Calgar and his honor guard, as well as the 2 tactical squads in the center there to basically just start shooting at things as soon as I come on the board. But I figure that I do have a lot of assault weapons in my army, so I'll probably be able to get a good round of shooting off before he can, and I'll deny him a turn, basically. So let's see how that goes. Okay, end of turn 1. As you can see, all my stuff's come in. My opponent's just shuffled some of his units around. He took one of that building over there on the right-hand side with his tactical squad. Now, I made a pretty big mistake here, and basically it just comes from playing Blood Angels for the last couple of weeks and not having played Tyranids in a while. But I had forgotten that in the recent codex they changed the Death Spitters for the warriors from 24 inches range to 18-inch range. Which is something that did hurt me quite a bit because I decided to put my Termagants, which couldn't be in range of my opponent's models, because his models obviously had to deploy 24 inches away from my board edge, and I only have a 6-inch movement, which means that if he was any distance beyond the halfway point of the board, I wouldn't be able to shoot at him with my Termagants this turn. So I decided to deploy the Termagants in front to try to move up in later turns, and then deploy the warriors in back because I would be in range of shooting. But I forgot that the warriors had only had an 18-inch range and wouldn't be able to fire this turn. So unfortunately, I sort of shot myself in the foot there a little bit and was not able to fire with my warriors. Although I did get some shooting off with the Hive Tyrant. With the Trigon, the Hive Tyrant was also out of range. And other than that, not a heck of a lot happened. As you can see, I've stacked this left flank just to keep my opponent's other tactical squad there out of the game, pretty much. Okay, so here's the end of turn 3. Things have started to get a little more interesting. In my opponent's turn, he brought in his unit of scouts that had outflanked, as well as a captain that he had forgotten to put on the board basically on turn 1. So he had brought it on turn 2 off of his board edge as normal, and he put that with the scout squad. So didn't make any difference. I wouldn't have been able to shoot at him or anything. It was just something worth mentioning. And obviously my opponent did bring in his Predator last turn, which I think took a wound off the Trigon, but not a heck of a lot going on with that. So in my turn, because my Hive Tyrant had the Hive Commander rule, he was able to bring in both my Ymgarl Gene Stealers and my 2 Gene Stealer squads. One came out of my left flank, one came out of my right. The one on my left flank assaulted the scouts right off the bat. I put a lot of attacks on his captain, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best idea because I wanted to win combat and hopefully get a kill point out of those scouts. But I figured that with only 3 wounds, the captain would be an easy pickings, and I didn't roll too well. I think I did 2 wounds to the captain, a couple wounds to the squad, and then took a couple back. My Ymgarl Gene Stealers also came in the center of the board. They assaulted the the tactical squad after I fired at it with my Devourers and brought it down to, I think, 2 or 3 models. So probably wipe that out next turn. And then my other Gene Stealers came in on my right flank and just ran as fast as they could towards the Predator because that was the only target on that side of the board. Now, my opponent's Honor Guard squad moved up right into the center, basically my deployment zone, basically saying, hey, come get me. So I decided to go balls to the wall and throw everything onto it. So, well, not everything, but throw my Trigon at it because I figured my Trigon had a good enough stats to kill at least one of those units, at least either the Honor Guard or a Calgar. Give me that kill point, and then even if I did lose the Trigon, I would be able to kill, basically it was a delaying tactic because I would be able to kill the other of the 2 units with either the Hive Tyrant or the Tyranid Warriors next turn, and then have a net gain of 1 kill point. So I charged him with the Trigon, I put all my attacks in the Honor Guard, ended up wiping them out, 1 round of combat, pretty easy, and then Calgar struck back. Now, I had fired at the squad, I think I killed 1 Honor Guard with that, and then I used Paroxysm from the Hive Tyrant on the squad, which reduced them to weapon skill 1. So Calgar was hitting me on 5s, and he ended up hitting with 4 out of 5 of his attacks and winning with all of them. So the combat was a tie, and my Trigon was looking pretty feeble at that point. This is where the smack talking began between me and my opponent. We were just yelling at each other over who was going to kill who first, and it was pretty funny. So yeah, that is that turn. Next turn I'll probably be able to kill off Calgar, grab a kill point from him, and then hopefully kill off that tactical squad, the 2 tactical squads, and just basically have a resounding lead at that point. So let's see how it goes. Okay, here is the end of turn 3. This is pretty much the end of the game. I believe we played 1 more turn after this, but my opponent decided to call it because it wasn't feasible that he would win the game, as you can pretty much see from this photo. What happened here is that the Trigon and Marneus Calgar, well, my opponent charged in his tactical squad to the Trigon, tried to kill the Trigon. The Trigon and the tactical squad struck simultaneously. The Trigon killed Marneus Calgar, and the tactical squad killed the Trigon. So I consider that a win because the tactical squad was then out there in the open. The Hive Tyrant paroxysmed it because it was no longer in combat, and then the Hive Tyrant and the Tyranid Warriors both assaulted it, and I believe wiped it out just after I took this photo. So that, along with the tactical squad in the center that was wiped out by the Ymgarl Gene Stealers, and the Honor Guard and Marneus Calgar, gave me a lead of 4 points over 1 that my opponent got for killing my Trigon. So that was a pretty resounding lead, and something that it was not feasible for my opponent to come back from, simply because all he had was a scout squad that was in combat and the Predator. So that is a win for the Tyranids. Yay, Tyranids! So obviously it was a good game to my opponent, one of the most enjoyable games I've played in quite a while. I think the scenario sort of screwed my opponent over. I think he would have been better if he'd stayed back a little bit more and fired, and obviously stayed to the center of the board so my Gene Stealers couldn't get at him, and basically just kept that Honor Guard unit as almost as a reserve to assault if I got close enough, and then just use his superior range and shooting ability to take out my monstrous creatures, and then take out my my bigger Tyranids, and then lastly focus on the smaller termagants and things like that. Because this wasn't an objective game, he wasn't really obligated to assault my position, but he decided to anyway, and it sort of it hurt his plan in the long run just because he has a majority shooting army. So I hope you guys enjoyed this report. As I said in my last report, I'm trying to get more games of 40k in. This is obviously one from a while ago that I've been sort of keeping up my sleeve for a lull. And I've been trying to get more games of any game in. I've been talking to some people locally, and I'll try to get some games in with them. Hopefully, find some new game stores that I can go to. There's one about an hour away from me that I guess plays a lot, so I think I'll take a trip down there, try to play some games, and give you guys some sweet reports. So stay tuned for those. See you all later.